Isn't that? How many of you have written the mains last year? And can I please know your scores? Score in 2016, I'm just asking about the last attempt. 240. Somebody else? 240. Anybody else? 232. 218. 253. 220. Okay. So I think most of the people who are sitting here, they have scored somewhere around 230, 240. This is the average score that people have scored. But what I personally think that it is very easy to score around 280, 290. I'm just talking about the average score. I'm not talking about exceptionally good score, because people have scored more than 300 also. So yes, it is very much possible to score 300, and that is the basic target here. That is the basic objective that I just wanted to discuss. In what way you can excel in history, and in what way you can score more than 300 or around 300. That is the target, right? So as we are going to discuss this particular thing, so there are a few things that I must discuss here. Right. So before I come to answer writing, so the first thing which is very important here, what is the content that you are referring, right? That content is very important, and that is why we'll begin our discussion from the content, the content that you are referring, and then only we'll move to the the way that you are supposed to write, in which you are supposed to write your answer. So there are few questions that I'm just going to target here. The first thing, what to read, right? That is very important, because normally people are scoring less in history. So I think the problem is relying somewhere in the content, because most of the people, as I'm reading the number of people, and they are saying they are just referring the notes, right? How many of you are just referring the notes for history, notes of different teachers? Only notes. No, you all are reading those. That's very good. So what kind of books that you people are? NCERT and such as standard books. So he's talking about the standard books. So what kind of books would be considered as the standard books? So let us begin with the NCERT one. So fine, if it is NCERT, so what is the most standard books in the present scenario? I'm not talking about the previous, UPSC, because there people were referring normally, new materials they were referring, or the NCERT they were referring. But in the present scenario, look, you must begin your preparation with BN. How many of you have gone through the book of BN? Very less people. Fine. So that is supposed to be one of the ancient text for the ancient one, Dienja. The second book, which is very important, and mind you, if you are not going through that particular book, you cannot score good, at least in the paper one. And that book is definitely of the book of. Now, why this book is so significant or so important? Why Upinder Singh in recent years have been proved as a very good book for at least for the UPSC aspirants, those who are having history optional. What is the significance of this book? Normally, I hope before the preparation you might be also thinking that history is a static subject and nothing is changing. Is that true? How many of you are thinking in this direction? Actually, this is not true. History is not a static subject, right? People are doing research, and if you definitely you guys must be reading the newspaper. So if you guys are reading newspaper, in that case you must be knowing one thing, that recently there is much excavation in IVC, right? Like Rakhi Ghadi and Dhalavira, these are some of the sites where people are doing much excavations, right? So look, whatever the materials that you people are referring, this material, suppose you are talking about the graduation IGNOU material, right? That material was developed around 35 years back, right? So in last 35 years, there's much development in history writing and understanding of history. And that is why if you people continue to refer, the same stuff, definitely you are not going to score very good. The first thing, and that is why I just wanted to, talk about the books. So D.N. Jha is again, it's a book which was, written much earlier, but even though that book is dealing with the concepts of ancient India, right? And that concept is very important. If you have seen the question papers of previous year, at least the previous years, and at least, in fact, I must say, if you have seen the question papers of last 4 or 5 years, then you must notice one thing: the questions which are from ancient India, these are more conceptual, right? Rather than the factual, right? And that is why this book is very important for developing the concept, right? And if I'll come to the book of Upinder Singh, so in Upinder Singh, you can find that the recent discoveries or the recent understanding of history, at least ancient India, has been discussed in that book, and that is why this book is very important. So that is why the first thing, the first suggestion that I'll give you, that you have to read this book, Upinder Singh. Now, most of the people are quite afraid of the book because it is quite bulky, right? And that's true, that book is quite bulky, around 1100 pages are there. So definitely the pages are so much, so it's quite impossible to read the book. At least in this present scenario, it is almost all impossible to read the book. But mind you, my friends, you have to shortlist the relevant areas from the book. And in fact, indeed I must say, 2/3 of the book is irrelevant for the UPSC and only 1/3 of the book is relevant, right? And if you have seen the question papers of previous years, in that case you are capable in shortlisting the relevant areas in this particular book. So whenever you start reading this book, you first shortlist that, okay, fine, this from this particular section the question could be framed in UPSC, so fine, that is important for you. And if you find that this is highly irrelevant, like what is the drawback in this book, that sometimes he has given highly factual details like sites, right? So he has given numerous details on the sites, and definitely this is not important for you. So in that case you can avoid those kind of sections and only try to sort out the relevant areas for the UPSC and just go for those relevant areas, right? So these are the 2 compulsory readings for the ancient India, right? Well, for that I need the book, right? I mean, this is the question. I never like to listen this question, because now you people are veteran, you people are mature, right? You are writing the mains examination. So definitely I can do this work, I can shortlist the stuff from the book, right? But the problem is that if you are not doing this particular work yourself, in that case definitely you are not.
Particular phases of history, not the chapters.
Not again the phases. If you are talking about the phases, so have you seen the previous videos that I have that are on the YouTube, right? So if for that you can consult that YouTube videos, because there I have discussed about the minor topics that you must go for, right? So I mean, from those videos you can find an insight, you can get an insight of those EA. And if you personally want me to mark the sections, so you can come with come to me with the book. I can definitely mark those sections which are relevant for the UPSC, right? Now the second thing, how to read the book, that is very important. Specifically I am talking about Upinder Singh, and this is in fact true for the ancient medieval India as well. So let us first discuss the sources for the medieval India. So most of the people are reading for the medieval India Satish Chandra, and I think still in this present scenario Satish Chandra is giving a complete solution to the medieval India, right? But in medieval India there are some more readings you must go for, because what is happening, most of the people are planning or making the strategy in such a way that I am going to attempt only 1 question from the ancient and 3 questions from the medieval. This is the normal strategy that people are following. In that case you can I think you should diversify your knowledge in the medieval India as well, because as you are planning to attempt 3 questions from the medieval, in that case apart from Satish Chandra there is a book of J.L. Mehta, right? Only the 3rd volume of the J.L. Mehta, because it is dealing with the cultural aspect, right, or the sources, which is very important, and that is where the 3rd volume of J.L. Mehta is very important, and I think you must go for this J.L. Mehta. Apart from these sources that I have discussed, look, that book has been published very recently, 2006, the book of Upinder Singh. So, okay, fine, this is okay with the ancient India, but as far as the medieval India is concerned, so in medieval India, the book of Satish Chandra was published again much earlier. But this is true that most of the ideas which have been discussed in Satish Chandra, these are more or less, continued, or still people are believing in those theories which have been, given in Satish Chandra. But apart from this, you can consult slightly the MA IGNOU materials. These are again very relevant, because some of the questions which are directly being asked from the MA IGNOU material, again the same question could be raised, कि MA IGNOU materials are quite quite a bulky, right? This is true because if you'll see the MA material, it's quite bulky, but there should be a right way to read this MA material, right? I'll come to that point in what way you are supposed to read this MA material. So the second aspect that I just wanted to discuss is how to read the books of paper 1. Look, as far as this paper 1 is concerned, right, one thing which is very important in paper 1 and that you must understand, and that is sources, right? Why these sources are so important in paper 1 at least? Why these sources are very important in paper 1? एक बार यूपीएससी में आते हैं तो एनालिसिस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है, नहीं हर चीज़ में एनालिसिस लिखना है, दैट्स ट्रू. Look, normally the paper 1, matlab ancient, early medieval and medieval, these are the sections which are totally based upon sources, right? Because whatever the interpretation that we write in our answer, or whatever the interpretation that we read in books, these are completely based upon sources, right? And that is why while reading this paper 1, you cannot ignore this sources, because whatever the conclusion that you are drawing in your answer, or you are reading in the books, these are completely based upon sources. This is the first significance of the sources. And apart from this, you might have noticed that some of the questions are directly asked from the sources. Simply they are asking about the sources, right? So as sources are important in various ways. The first thing that sources are very important in paper 1. So that is where the first task that you have, that try to cover the sources as extensively you can, because the sources are always very important. And as I told you, sources, sometimes the questions are directly related to sources. Let me quote some questions from the 2016 only. So if I'll quote some of the questions from the 2016. Then if you'll see the compulsory questions of the medieval section, right, you can find all the questions were based upon sources only. They have asked about Tabqat-e-Nasiri, they have asked about Uttar Meru inscriptions, they have asked about Jona Raja's account, they have asked about Al-Biruni, right? So out of 5 questions, 4 are based upon sources only, right? And even in rest of the questions, again you can find the importance of the sources. So that is why the same could be repeated, could be said for the ancient also. In ancient you can find again sources based question, like the numismatic evidences for the Kusanas and the Satavahanas, right? So that is why some of the questions are directly asked from the sources, and that is one of the area that you must cover rigorously, and that is very important for you. The second thing, that in rest of the questions which are not directly related to the sources, even in these areas you must write your answer referring the sources. And if you are not doing that, definitely you cannot excel very up to very good marks in paper 1. And that is why just start developing this habit of writing answers referring the sources. Now the next question is arising. People are saying how to remember all these sources. I'm not saying you to remember all the minor sources. Broadly you can refer the sources, like Smriti you can refer, like the Veda you can refer, like the Brahman you can refer, like the inscription you can refer. Now you're not supposed to refer the numbers of the inscription, ki Asoka's pillar number this and this, pillar number this and this, right? In that way you are not supposed to refer, but at least we can refer that from Asoka's inscription we can draw this, we can write this, right? In that way you just start writing your answer, right? So that is the third part we are going to deal, right? In what way you are supposed to write your answer. So I'll come on that later. So after the sources, the next thing which is very important for the paper 1, that is continuity and change. Now what is this continuity and change, right? If we'll see the question paper, basically this is the nature of history. I don't know that how many of you understand the nature of history as a subject. History is basically talking about the continuity and changes in society, right? And at least this is very important for paper 1, that whenever you are reading this history, the ancient and the early medieval and the medieval section, you just try to find out or sort out the continuity and the changes, or the phenomena of the continuities and changes. And in fact history has been defined in a way that history is nothing but to understand the changing society, or the what kind of changes which are occurring in society. So if you develop this particular phenomena or this particular style of reading where you just try to find out, okay, fine, this particular notion got changed in later Vedic period or in Mahajanpada period, this is still continued. So that would be, developing a better understanding in you for the history. So that section is very important. And again, if you'll see the question papers, so the question papers are, sometimes they are asking the interlinkages, right, from one period to the another period. And that is where whenever you are, revising your syllabus, because right now you're in a mode to revise the syllabus, just try to find out or sort out the, continuities and changes which are occurring in society, because everything has not been written in the books, right? That you have to, sort out or sort list. Okay, fine. In that way, we can, analyze the continuity and changes. So that habit you has to develop in yourself, because if you're doing that, in that case, definitely it is going to easy for you. Right. So I hope you're getting this point, continuity and changes, or should I speak more on this? I think you are getting the point, right? So the third point, which is again very important, historiography. I think when you have started preparing, then nobody was talking about this historiography. If you have started preparing 2 years or 3 years back for this UPSC, in that particular time, nobody was talking about this historiography. There's a major difference in the, UPSC preparation and academics, right? In academics, nothing is there in history without historiography. Everything is basically historiography. And in UPSC, nobody talked about the historiography. And in recent years, I think I have noticed one thing, now this historiography has become so important, right? And what exactly is this historiography? Mind you, history is not a thing. Whatever the history that you are reading in books, which took place as it is, it has been discussed in that particular book. Because whatever you read, that is nothing but the idea of that that particular writer, right? So I hope you must be knowing that history is always biased. I hope you might have listened this particular statement that history is always biased. Yes, this is biased, and I hope you must be knowing about the recent developments which are going on in the present scenario. You might be aware of the fact that the Aurangzeb Road, the name of the Aurangzeb Road changed into Abdul Kalam Road, right? APJ Kalam Road. So look, so for a section, Aurangzeb was a very bad personality, right? Is that true? बहुत बुरा आदमी था औरंगजेब, था ना? For a section, right? So ये उस सेक्शन को बिलोंग करते हैं जहाँ औरंगजेब जो है बहुत खराब आदमी मानते हैं, ठीक है? But most of the historians, I cannot say most of the historians, but there is a group of historians which does not believe in this idea that Aurangzeb was a bad personality. In fact, they are just saying कि nobody in history is bad, right? The circumstances which make someone bad or good, the circumstances which made Akbar as a great ruler, and the circumstances which made Aurangzeb as a bad ruler, right? So if we'll talk in terms of history, so Aurangzeb could not be considered as a bad ruler. But why actually quoting, I'm talking about these kind of things, because everything is biased in history, and that is why this historiography is very important, because everybody is writing the history as per their own understanding, and that is why you have to understand slightly the historiography. And I hope again the same thing I'll say, you have noticed one thing, you might have noticed one thing, that some of the questions are directly based upon historiography. Suppose I'm just let me quote some examples. Like suppose a question is coming on nature of Mauryan Empire. This is a debate, right? Somebody is saying it was highly centralized. Somebody is saying it was not highly centralized. Somebody is saying it was decentralized state, right? If somebody is asking about the decline of Harappa, right? Again, this is a sort of debate, right? So this is what kind of debate it is. People have put forward different arguments for the decline of Harappa or the nature of Mauryan Empire. So these kind of ideas should be very clear to you, because if these questions are attempted by you without referring the historiography, so referring the historiography doesn't mean that you have to write the name of individual historians. No, you can avoid that. Simply you can write the argument by saying okay, one section of historians believe that this is the Mauryan Empire was centralized. Exactly, Mauryan Empire was centralized or it was decentralized. So that historiography is very important. And in last few years they have started asking such questions, like they have asked questions on Asoka's Dhamma. Again, there's a sort of debate on that. So that historiography should be very important to you. And as I was referring the MA IGNOU material or the Upinder Singh, why Upinder Singh or MA IGNOU material is so important? Because in these kind of sources, because these sources have been developed very recently, so there we can find that the materials have been developed or the book has been written with that perspective, where you can find the historiography. historiography, right? Or the various arguments ki, okay fine, this particular issue could be seen with various aspects or various possibilities are there. So that is why this historiography is very important. And whenever you are revising your syllabus, try to notice this particular thing also. So this is again one of the important area. And finally, after this historiography, one more thing that I must talk about, that is some of the questions are factual, that you leave on your destiny or your fate. Because the question arises here कि now it is next to impossible to read everything on ancient India or to know everything on ancient India. And sometimes they are asking some tough questions, right? So I mean, it happens that you don't have any as such information on that particular topic. So either I mean, if you have information, so definitely you can write the answer. If you don't have any information, like I hope you remember the question last year they asked about the contribution of Mahmoud Gawa, and there was one more fellow was there towards the education, right? Towards developing some educational centers and all. So these are highly factual questions, and if you have gone through that section, in that case you can write it. And there is no suggestion as such, because I could not develop any as such method through which you can write this answer, because if you have gone through that particular thing, so you can write it. The fifth thing which is very important here, subaltern perspective. Do you understand this subaltern perspective? Right. So in ancient India or in medieval India, that perspective is very important. This is part of historiography only, but this subaltern is very important, because initially whenever we talked about history, we just talked about Akbar, Shah Jahan, Jahangir and these kind of rulers. But history is slightly changing. That you must be knowing that now they are not asking the political questions, right? Or the issues related to the political history, because people have completely stopped asking, talking about the political aspect, and now they have started asking about some other aspects, right? Like the social aspect, like the cultural aspect, right? Art and culture is there. Apart from this, we can discuss about, sometimes they are asking very simple question. Discuss the life of the rural people during this Gupta period, right? So this is a question which is basically trying to deal with the subaltern, people. I hope you understand the subaltern, those sections which are normally neglected in history writing, and now people are trying to write down the history of those sections, right? And this is one of the important area or important development in history writing in recent years, and that is why this is one of the perspective that you always keep in mind while consulting your references or the books. So that is one of the another thing that could be implemented while reading, right? So these are some of the things that you must remember while preparing this optional history optional. Now the third part, as I told you, how to write the answer. That is very important, right? People are facing much difficulties in writing the answers. But one thing is pretty sure, that if you haven't gone through these materials, if you haven't gone through the materials with these perspectives, right, so it is slightly tough for you to write down the answers. And mind you, very frankly, I am telling you, those who are revolving around 230 and 240, it means that the first work for you is to develop the content, because without developing the content, definitely you cannot score the good. If you have crossed 270, 280, in that case you can improve. I mean, you need to improve your answer writing, because now you are lacking in answer writing. But if you have moving around this 230 and 240, it means that firstly you have to work on your content, right? Now come to the second aspect, the answer writing, right? The third aspect, the answer writing. So as far as the answer writing is concerned, so what do you think? In what way you are supposed to write the answers in paper 1? I'm just specifically talking about paper 1 right now, right? So the first question, whenever you talk about answer writing, the first question which is coming into the mind about the introduction, right? So what do you find about the introduction? What do you understand by the introduction? Introduction, it has been said by some of the people that writing introduction is a sort of art, right? And I think you people are not having this art of writing the answer, right? Art of sense होता है ना, सबके अंदर तो नहीं होता है. Aesthetic sense हर किसी के अंदर हो जरूरी नहीं है. मत लिखिए. Don't write the introduction. You briefly just introduce the subject, and what is exact introduction, right? What is called exact introduction, that you are not supposed to write. The first thing, that in the present scenario, at least 17 or 18 answers you are supposed to write in the paper in 3 hours. Specifically, I must say 2 hours and 45 minutes, right? Because 15 मिनट तो साइन वाइन कराने में ही ले जाते हैं, पता भी नहीं चलता है. तो मतलब 2 hours 45 minutes में you have to complete 17 answers, right? 17, 18 or 19 answers, right? And that is why introduction is such a thing that you always have, you are supposed to think first and then you are supposed to write your introduction. And the first thing and the second thing, that in the present scenario there is no much need of writing the introduction, because initially what happened ki people had to write the 60 marker answers, right, or the 50 marker answers. In that situation you had ample of time to think and then write. But in the present scenario you didn't have time. I mean, you are not having it time of thinking the introduction and then writing it. So briefly, you just in 2 or 3 sentences you write the introduction, right? Apart from this, nothing is required. The last part is the conclusion. Again, I'll say the same thing. Ki conclusions is required only if the question is demanding for the conclusion. Then only you just write the conclusion. Otherwise, avoid writing the conclusion, because unfortunately there is no conclusion in history. Is there any? कोई conclusion नहीं है history में. History is basically, as I told you, is all about historiography, right? And I am right and you are wrong. That cannot be said, right? You might be right in your own points, right? I might be right in my own points, and that is why I must say one thing. There is no as such fixed conclusion in history, and that is why you are not supposed to write the conclusion, right? If you have this habit of writing the conclusion, avoid that. Some of the people are writing in a way, they have, they start their answer introduction. They used to write this introduction, then they are writing the introduction, and then finally they are writing the conclusion. यार अभी तक हुआ ही नहीं हिस्ट्री में conclusion, तो how can you write the conclusion? Because still people are struggling, right, to know the exact fact, because nobody knows the exact fact, exactly what happened. Nobody can know that, and that is why the conclusion is a thing which is not possible in history, and that is why leave this idea, or idea of writing the conclusion. So that is the second suggestion what I'm giving you. The third thing, right, now come to the body part, right? So the first thing, as I told you, as I suggested you earlier also, in this particular a body part, basically after this writing this 1 or 2 liner introduction, the main content of the answer should be developed in a way where sources are very important. I just told you. So please develop this habit of writing or remembering the sources, because if you are referring the sources in your answer, at least in paper 1, that is going to help you a lot. And if you have developed this habit, definitely you can excel up to 150, 160 in paper 1. And actually my students have scored 150 in paper 1. And I do remember that in last few years, I mean 2 years back, they could not even score around 100 in paper 1, and now they have started scoring around 150, 140 in paper 1. So that is the one of the strategy that through which you can excel in paper 1, right? Thus, next thing which is very important, that even though the paper is conceptual, even though the paper is demanding about the concepts of ancient India, but ultimately you need certain ideas, right? And the most common problem for the students in the examination hall is to remember the points, right? So whenever you are preparing, you are reading, you are going through your content, so try to convert everything into possible points, right? What exactly I mean by possible points? So definitely one thing, suppose any topic that you can discuss here, there are several points, right? It may be 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, right? So always try to convert the topic into possible points, right? And you, whatever the sources that you are reading, right? Either you just write there only, right? These are the point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, and point number 4, right? If you are reading the Upinder Singh, you have much space to write that, right? So the whole paragraph you just summarize in few points, right? So if you have done that, in that case, it is easy to remember those points in the examination hall, and the same idea you just repeat here, right? Because as I was telling you about the lack of time in the examination hall, so the first thing, if you have converted your content into possible points, in that case, what is going to happen? It is easy to remember, the first thing, and the second thing, you just make small paragraphs, right, and write the same point, write those points, right? Like the point number 1, 2, 3, don't write in giving such numbering and all, because again the numbering is not possible in history 1, like 1, 2, 3. You just write one paragraph, right, one point, and just change the paragraph and write the next paragraph, right? So in that way, what you can do, that you are you can ease the work of the evaluator, right? Because whatever the point that you have discussed, right? So the basic content of the basic idea of the point, right? You just underline and just leave it. Just write some small paragraph, because that is the best way that I found writing the answers in the present scenario. And in our website we have uploaded the copies of Basuki Jha, who have cleared this time and who was writing the test series here. So I just like this idea. He hasn't gone through numbers of books and such things, but the way he has developed for writing the answers, you can check out the copies, because answer scripts, because these answer scripts are on the website. So that would be a guiding material for you. So you just see those copies which are there, and try to develop this habit of writing the answers, or framing the answers in the point format, right? That is very important. So these are some of the suggestions for paper 1. Now come to the paper 1. Paper 2. You want to ask something for the paper 1? Questions are welcome. Any specific doubt you have or something else? I just discussed, look, IGNOU materials were developed around 1975-76, right? So as these materials were developed much earlier, so the thing is that these materials are dealing with history in a very plain way, right? Okay, this happened, or some factual details are there, right? But the thing is that if it was developed much earlier, it doesn't mean that history has completely or altogether transformed. This is not correct. So still this material, if you have gone through this material, right, so definitely make this material as the base material, right? I'm not denying that, but keep on doing the value additions, right? Like if you'll read this MA IGNOU material, graduation IGNOU material, in that case you don't find the historiography. And as I'm telling you, this section is very important in the present scenario. So that is why please develop this habit of getting the historiography. And as this particular thing is missing in the graduation one, the graduation IGNOU material, and that is why this is the only lacking thing in the IGNOU material, the graduation IGNOU material. But again I am repeating the same thing. If you have read this graduation IGNOU material, so again make the material as the base material, right? That is the platform for you, and then start developing the other things, right? So that would be helpful for you. अगर आपने कोई भी किताब पढ़ी, it hardly matters, right? Ultimately 75% चीजें वही है, जो बाकी 25% जो value additions है, that you can do from anywhere, right? But even though I'll just suggest to go for this Upinder Singh's book, right? And as I told you, कि don't be afraid of that book, because as I'm telling you, कि 2/3 of the book is irrelevant, right? That is not very important for you. So just try to shortlist that 1/3 part of the book, because that is relevant for you, and that would be quite helpful for you, right? Anything else? I just told you Satish Chandra first. That is again, that should be the base book for you. And then Chahel Mehta, 3rd volume. And the third thing I just told you, to consult the MA IGNOU material. पढ़ने की कोशिश मत करिएगा. Okay, fine. The MA IGNOU material has been developed in such a way, there are some headings and small paragraph. Heading and small paragraph, right? Whenever you are just seeing this MA IGNOU material, just see the heading, right? If you think that if any question has been framed on this particular theme, so you are having proper content, you are having this potential to write this answer, leave that. If any heading, if you are seeing any heading and you find okay fine, I don't have any such content to write this answer, it means that you have to go for the paragraph. Are you getting my point? So in that way, you just see the MA IGNOU material, because it's quite a bulky, right? It's quite confusing also, because if you don't have proper understanding of history, then sometimes it might be proved tough for you to understand. You just focus on the small headings. Okay, this heading. Suppose I'm just telling you. Suppose one question is coming on the nature of Satvahana state or the Kusana state, right? So if you are reading this Satish Chandra, or if you are reading this, the earlier books that you have referred, there you cannot find such topics has been discussed. Ki nature of Satvahana state, nature of the Kusana state. And if you'll see the MA IGNOU material, so they have discussed the stuff in that way. They have discussed about the nature of Satvahana state and the Kusana state. I'm just quoting one example here, right? So if you find okay fine, I don't have proper stuff to write the answer, in that case you have to see it. Otherwise, just leave the thing. In that way, you are supposed to cover the thing. ऐसे भी देखिए, पुराने क्वेश्चंस देखना हमेशा आपके लिए अच्छा है, बिकॉज दैट इज गिविंग ए सॉर्ट ऑफ इनसाइट टू यू, राइट? कि ओके दिस यू मस्ट रीड, आई मीन यू शुड रीड दिस और नॉट, राइट? बिकॉज इफ यू आर सीइंग द अर्लियर क्वेश्चंस, इन दैट केस यू आर गिविंग ए सॉर्ट ऑफ इनसाइट, you can understand the nature of the UPSC. So that is very important. You always see the question paper, the previous year question paper. That is very important. right? One more thing that I missed to tell you, when writing the answers, as I told you about the arguments, that definitely the arguments must be framed in smaller paragraphs, right? And the arguments must be supported by few facts, right? Facts doesn't mean that you are supposed to write the numbers of facts. No, if you have put forward an argument, right, that argument must be supported by at least one fact, right? Okay, on the basis of this fact I can write this. That is very important. So arguments must be supported by at least one fact, right? That is important. Now come to the paper 2. So as far as this paper 2 is concerned, right, again people are confused. Some of the people say ki writing the answers from the world is easier as compared to writing answers for the modern India. What do you think? That is correct, right? That is 100% correct, that yes, it is easy to write the answers of the modern world, or the attempt the questions from the modern world as compared to modern India. And the reason is very simple, because if you read the history of modern India and modern world, you can find a difference. What kind of difference is there? The modern world is more simple as compared to modern India. Why it is more simple? Because the way we do research in India and the way people used to do research in rest of the year, like Europe and America, that is different. Look, the first thing that there's not in India, as you know, it was the colonized period for India, and that is why most of the sources are missing, right? And that is why we are not having much sources to write down the modern Indian history. Whether this is not true for modern world, because in modern world you can find that history is more like history of the modern world is more like a story. Because everything has been developed in such a way that there is no much complication, there is no much debate as such, and that is where the debate, which is very important in Indian section, that debate is completely missing in world section, and that is why your answer is not having numbers of aspects, right? I mean, the theme that you are reading is not having numbers of aspects that must be discussed in the answer, and that is where the answers are definitely simple, in world section, but it is slightly tough in to implement the same idea, slightly tough in the modern Indian section, right? So that is why if it is definitely fine if you are writing the answers of 3 answers from the modern world, but the problem is that the syllabus is very vast for the world section, right? Because now you have to read the history of Europe, then America, then now they have started asking the awkward questions from the Africa as well, right? So in that case, I must suggest you one thing, if you feel comfortable, so one thing that you must imply this idea in the world section, that as much as diversify your knowledge in the world section, that would be helpful to you, right? Unfortunately, whatever the books that you people are referring for the world section, these are not the standard text. Most of you are reading this Janan Mathur or the Al Mukherjee. These are the books that you are reading, except one book, Norman Lowe. But unfortunately, Norman Lowe is not covering the complete syllabus, and it is dealing as the post-World War section, basically the First World War and after onwards, right? And that is where this is the limitation of the book. This is definitely supposed to be one of the standard book. And for the rest of the periods or rest of the areas, definitely there are some standard texts such as Ralph and Byrne is there, or you can talk about the David Thompson or Eric Hobsbawm. These are some of the standard writing in paper 2, basically the world section. But unfortunately, I don't think that anybody sitting here is referring those materials. Anybody who is referring Eric Hobsbawm or David Thompson or Ralph and Byrne, David Thompson you have referred, right? But definitely some sections you might have referred. अच्छा है, बहुत अच्छा अगर आप लोग ऐसे कंसल्ट मटेरियल्स कंसल्ट करते हैं, कंसल्ट करते हैं तो ठीक है. As I am telling you, as people are not referring standard materials in for paper 2, and that is why in that case I'll suggest you to write 3 answers from the modern India, because it is easy to connect yourself with the modern Indian questions. Because चाय दुकान पे भी थोड़ी हिस्ट्री तो हम बात कर ही लेते हैं, हिस्ट्री ऐसा है, ठीक है. और आजकल थोड़ा ज़्यादा ही होता है, आजकल हिस्ट्री जो है अब अकेडमिक वर्ल्ड से निकल के जो है चाय दुकानों पे ज़्यादा पहुँच रही है, ठीक है. कि अयोध्या में जन्म हुआ था कि नहीं हुआ था, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है, ठीक है. ताजमहल के नीचे मंदिर है या नहीं है, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है, ठीक है. तो इस तरीके के जो क्वेश्चंस हैं आजकल बहुत ज़्यादा पॉपुलर है. अब जैसे अब इंडस का नाम, ये तो खैर अब तो अकेडमिक क्वेश्चन हो गया है कि इंडस का नाम बदल के हम जो है उसका सरस्वती सिविलाइजेशन कर देते हैं, ठीक है. एंड अच्छा, वन मोर थिंग, आई जस्ट रिकॉल दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग. whatever the news that you are reading in the newspaper, try to connect your paper, optional paper, with that also, right? Last year they asked one question. It was about the Indus Valley civilization, why most of the sites are falling in the arid areas and the saline areas, right? So do you find, I mean, can you do you find that why this particular question has been asked? Have you noticed this thing? Just before your mains examination, there was an article which was published in Frontline, and it was dealing with the same topic, that why the areas or the sites of the IVC were falling in these areas, and that is where they have asked one question. Why I'm actually referring this, because if you find anything which is presently going in news, that is definitely important for you. And as you can find, recently much have been written on IVC, right? And that is why, mind you, that is why you always remember that every year they'll ask one question from the Indus Valley civilization, and that is why you try to sort out some such topics which are recently in news and try to prepare those topics in such a way that any question which is coming from those sections or those periods, so you are not going to miss this particular topic. That is one of the best way, and that idea could be even implemented in paper 2, because Ambedkar in last year, he was very popular and much debate was there. Baba Sahab बहुत popular हो गए थे, ठीक है, और अलग अलग reason थे उसके popular होने की वजह से, and that is where they asked one question on ये, and that same idea even could be implemented in general studies, because most of the questions which are being asked in general study from history, right, these are always relevant to the present development, so you always remember that, right? Now come to the paper 2, as I was discussing about paper 2. So let us first discuss the modern India, right? So as far as this modern India is concerned, right, there are few things that you must notice. I mean, the books that you are referring. So I hope let us first talk about the books. So as far as the books are concerned, so what is the book that you are referring? You might have gone through the Bipin Chandra, right? That is like the Gita for the UPSC aspirants, those who are having history optional. But that Gita has been changed now, right? Now Shekhar Bandyopadhyay replaced that Bipin Chandra, and now the Gita is considered. I mean, the Gita is supposed to be the Shekhar from Palasi to Partisan, written by Shekhar Bandyopadhyay, right? But even though I'll say you one thing, there are few chapters in Bipin Chandra, these are highly relevant for the UPSC, like the chapter which is dealing with the communalism, right? The chapter which is dealing with the leftist movement, right? The chapter which is dealing with the tribal revolts, right? So there are few sections which are very important in that book, so at least try to shortlist those chapters which are still relevant and try to cover those chapters, right? But these are only 4 or 5 chapters, these are more than sufficient for you, these are sufficient for you, right? And then completely rely on Shekhar Bandyopadhyay, right? So this is the standard text for the paper 2, the modern Indian section, right? Now, in what way you are supposed to cover this modern India, that is very important. So the first thing, which is again very important, that I have discussed in paper 1 also, continuity and changes. Right? So what kind of continuity I am talking about? Look, it's a very small period of 200, 250 periods, right? Modern कब शुरू होता है? कब? 1707. Battle of Palasi. What else? किसने कहा डिबेट है? यही आप लोग मतलब just change this phenomena, just change this habit of telling this. I just ask कि modern कब से शुरू होता है? You just started telling about the period 1707, 1757, 1772, right? यार मॉडर्न कोई ऐसा थोड़ी होता है कि एक रात को हम जो है मिडीवल में सोए थे, अगले दिन सवेरे हम मॉडर्न में उठे. प्री के लिए नहीं आए ना आप लोग, यहाँ मेंस के लिए आए. ऐसे you are not supposed to answer the things in this way, right? So if suppose somebody is asking about the modern, that from which particular period you find that the modernity is coming to India, so it's basically it takes time, right? It is not this modernity is coming to India in a night, overnight. So definitely you have to ask this, answer this particular question in a way that this is a sort of continuous change, continuous progress. And in 18th century you find that gradually the modernity is coming to India. So that should be the right answer, rather than saying this ki 1707 or 1757. This is not the right way. Normally we assume that in 18th century the modernity, different signs of modernity is are coming to India, like the rule of law is coming, right? The judicial system is changing, right? The we can talk about the rationalism with the coming of Raja Ram Mohan Roy and people like Raja Ram Mohan Roy. People have started talking about the rationalism and all. So this is the way through which we can define the modernity in India, even though it has been considered from 1757 onwards, we have to cover in the syllabus of modern India, right? So from 1757 to 1964, at least this is the important area, important period for the modern India. So what kind of continuities and changes could be noticed, right? So in this particular, thing, basically, as I'm talking about the continuity and changes, so in various aspects of this modern India, you can find this, right? Such as, we can discuss about the economic aspect of modern India, right? So in economic aspect, you can find that some of the things, the older thing or the previous things continued, but some of the things got completely changed because of the coming of the English, right? In the same way, in this particular banner, you can discuss about the viceroys or the governor generals, right? Because every governor general was having different policies and other things, and that is why you can compare to governor general and viceroys also. And last year also, I guess they have asked one question related to this. So in that way, you just try to compare the things. In what way Wellesley was different from Warren Hastings, or in what way Bentinck is different. So for this particular thing, for the viceroy section, one more source that you can consult, that is the Yashpal Grover book, right? So at least the acts and the viceroy, these are the sections that you see from that book. That is again important. I just missed to tell you. So this is one of the things that you just try to find out the continuity and change even in the modern India. That is very important. But the most important aspect for the modern India is definitely this is the most important aspect for writing the answers in the modern India. And if you're missing that, definitely you cannot score very good in modern Indian section. I think one of my previous video I have discussed about the historiography and all. You just consult that video. Roughly, I'm just talking about the historiography. Basically, I hope you must be knowing that the history writing of India started somewhere, in the modern period only. Once this, colonial people are coming, they started, writing the history of India, and that is why different historiography developed. Not only in India, even in the world, you can find that people have they're writing history with different perspectives, right? So there are some broader schools, right? Or some major schools. So there you can count the nationalist school, right? That is very important. And mind you, in this प्रेजेंट सिनेरियो थोड़ा डोमिनेंट रखिएगा उसको, नेशनलिस्ट. अगर आप नेशनलिस्ट नहीं है तो आप सिविल सर्विस के पार्ट नहीं हो सकते हैं, ठीक है? तो थोड़ा सा नहीं, ऐसे भी मॉडर्न इंडिया में आंसर लिखते समय थोड़ा सा नेशनलिज्म वाले अप्रोच को थोड़ा डोमिनेंट रखना है, ठीक है? बिकॉज देयर आर सो मेनी थिंग्स ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ हिस्टोरियोग्राफी यू कैन डिनाई बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली यू हैव टू एक्सेप्ट दोस आइडियाज वेरी let me pick a general topic, that did India get the freedom because of the movements, freedom movements? In that case, if I'd be writing the answer, so I can deny the contribution of Indian freedom movement, because it was not having that much contribution for the Indian independence. Even though if you're writing the answer, so you have to give the weightage to the Indian freedom movements for achieving the freedom or the independence. So that is why I'm just suggesting you to just keep this idea live, while writing the answers, the idea of nationalism. Apart from this, nationalist school, the another school which is very important, that is known as imperialist school, right? That could be equated with the Cambridge school as well, right? So that is again very important. The third school, which is very important, that is supposed to be the Marxist school, right? Marxists or the neo-Marxists, right? Somewhere the neo-Marxists are differing from the Marxists, even though you can broadly categorize both the schools in a single category, because more or less they are having the same idea. You are not supposed to understand this, what kind of differences are there in the Marxists and neo-Marxists, but you just remember this category. The next thing, which is the next school which is very important, that is subaltern category, right? Subaltern, I have discussed earlier also, and again I'll say the same thing. Subaltern is the very important history writing school in the present scenario, and that is why you can find the impact of that school even in the question paper. So try to read the things with that particular perspective, right? Like the questions they are asking about the role of women in the Indian freedom movement, this is nothing but purely could be categorized as the questions falling in this subaltern category, right? And one more school is there, which is recently very, in recent years, which became so popular. This is called revisionist, right? What is this revisionist? Basically, they are just trying to revise the thing, right? Just trying to reinterpret the things, and there 1857 could be discussed, because recently there is much writing on 1857, right? So now they are just trying to see the issues, or the basically the issues of modern India with a different perspective, and that is why the school is recently has become so important or prominent. So these are broadly few schools, and that you must keep in mind while reading the book, right? So once you are reading this book of Shekhar Bandyopadhyay, what is the beauty of that book? Because this particular thing, the book has been discussed with that particular perspective. Okay, this is the idea of the Cambridge school, this is the idea of the nationalist, this is the idea of the imperialist school, right? So in that way you can understand the topics of the modern India. So that is why this book became so important in recent year. So that is why I just told you that historiography is very important, right? The third thing, that in modern India, you just try to diversify your knowledge, because sometimes they are asking some minor issues as well, and that diversification could be done only through referring various material. But through various material, I definitely I do not mean that you are supposed to cover numbers of books. Thus, I suggested 3 materials, 3 books for you. You just try to find out the try to acquire the knowledge on various issues from that book, from the books which I have referred just now, right? Now the next part, that in what way you are supposed to write the answers in paper 2. Right. In paper 2, sources are not that much very important, but the interpretation is very important, because in modern India, right, most of the people are referring the same source, but they are just trying to interpret the source in a different way, and that is why you can find the different schools, right? And that is why whenever you are writing your answers in paper 2, some of the questions are directly related to the historiography. Like suppose they are asking about the deindustrialization, right? So once you are talking about deindustrialization, or they are asking about 1857, so these questions are purely related to the historiography, because without dealing with the historiography, definitely you cannot write the answers of these questions. But apart from these questions, the questions which are not directly related to the historiography, there also you just try to different perspectives through which historians have tried to understand the topic. You just try to write that. Then now again I'll say the same thing. There is no need to write the name of the historians. You can write the name of the school, right? But that is also not required. In various arguments you can present the idea of different schools, right? So that would be the best way of writing the answers in paper 2 for modern India, right? So in modern India, you just blindly follow this suggestion in paper 2. So whenever you are reading this Shekhar Bandyopadhyay, and that is why it has been supposed to be the Gita right now, so you just try to understand the themes in that particular perspective, right? Okay, there are 4 different schools or 5 different schools, and they have seen this particular issue differently, right? So your answer must be written in that particular pattern. So that would be going to enhance the quality of your answer. So that is the suggestion from me. So you just try to follow that suggestion for the paper 2, right? Now the 4th section is world. Normally I don't deal with the world. There is a different teacher who is dealing with the world section. He is from Zakir Hussain College, right? No conclusion. Nowhere you write the conclusion. Leave the answer completely blank, open ended. कुछ नहीं लिखे, है ही नहीं कंक्लूजन. लास्ट लाइन आप जैसे पॉपुलर जो व्यू है उसके साथ खत्म कर दीजिए क्वेश्चन. राइट. कंक्लूजन तो हम तब लिखेंगे ना जब कोई भी चीज कंक्लूड है. डीइंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन था या नहीं था, वो हर 10 साल में जो है वो हमारी जो थिंकिंग है वो बदल जाती है. अब सपोज हम डीइंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन को ले सकते हैं, तो सब डिफरेंट हिस्टोरियंस आर हैविंग डिफरेंट आर्गुमेंट्स. इनिशियली पीपल वर टॉकिंग अबाउट देयर वाज अ डीइंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन, देन पीपल डिफरेंट ग्रुप ऑफ हिस्टोरियंस came up and they started talking about कि no, there was no as such deindustrialization. Again there are revisionists, they are giving different interpretation कि you cannot conclude in a way कि there was a deindustrialization or there was not any deindustrialization, because if you study the history of India region wise, in that case you can find different conclusion. That is conclusion only. हाँ, ये देखिए थोड़ी बहुत दिक्कत है. देखिए हिस्ट्री में हम थोड़ा मटेरियल का प्रॉब्लम, दिस इज ऑलवेज देयर, बिकॉज द थिंग इज दैट हिस्ट्री डजंट मीन दैट 1 book or 4 books or 5 books, right? Because history has been always written with different perspectives. Now as you are talking about the social reformation movement, now if we'll talk about the social reformation movements, so now these social reformation movements have been gleaned by historians with some other perspectives as well, right? Like here you can take the name of Rajat Datta, or you can take the name of Ashish Nandi. These are some of the prominent writers, and recently they have tried to see this socio-religious reform movements in India with a completely different perspectives, right? So for this particular topic, you can slightly consult the MA-IGNOU materials. So through which what is going to happen, that at least you are going to find some recent views on the So it is giving a sort of different perspective to understand the socio-religious reform movements. ये तो बहुत इजी क्वेश्चन, देखिए थोड़ा अगर आपने समझा है तो चीज़ें अटेम्प्ट की जा सकती है, ठीक है। आप डीएवी स्कूल्स है ना, ठीक है, तो उन ऐसे ही आइडियाज़ लेके जो है, काउ स्लॉटर बैन मूवमेंट है या जो इसके उन्हीं मूवमेंट्स को लेके आंसर्स फ्रेम किया जा सकता है। इट्स नॉट अ बिग डील। Well, again, you are carrying me to a particular topic. Look, radical and extremist, right? Raja Ram Mohan Rai was a radical, right? And Dayanand Saraswati was extremist, right? Look, actually what is happening, the nature of the socio-religious reform is changing from the first half of the 19th century to the second half of the 19th century. 1850 onwards, there is a major change in India. And what is the major change? The threats or the idea of nationalism is gradually coming to India. And once this idea of nationalism is gradually coming to India, then definitely now, the way the Raja Ram Mohan Rai or the Ishwarchand Vidyasagar was talking about the social reformation movement, now in the same fashion you cannot talk about the social reformation movement. Why? Because if you are accepting that your society is having some loopholes, some problems, in that case you are just giving weightage or you giving acceptance to the colonial criticism, right? And that is why once this idea of nationalism became prominent in India, in modern India, right? So second half of the 19th century, then what happened? Now you cannot accept the colonial criticism, and that is why the idea of extremism is coming in socio-religious reform movement. And that is why people such as Savarkar or people such as Dayanand Saraswati or people such as Swami Vivekanand, they have started talking about something different. Actually the Indian society was flawless. In last 100 or 5 or 600 years, there's some problem was coming into the society, and that could be rectified, right? And for that we don't need the help of the colonial people. We can do it by our own customs in the society, and that is where this extremist view is coming, right? So that is the perspective which is written, that is one of the perspective written by Ashish Nandi. So now he has tried to see this socio-religious movement, reform movement with a different perspective, right? So थोड़ा सा आप अगर MA-IGNOU मटेरियल कंसल्ट करते हैं तो ऐसे नए नए आइडियाज आएंगे आपके पास, ठीक है। Right. So I was just talking about the world. In world, as I told you, there is no much dispute, right? That things are not much debatable, and that is why it is easy to write the answers in the world section. That is accepted, right? But as I told you, in world you have limitation in terms of sources, because as you haven't gone through the proper sources, the standard material, and that is why I'll just suggest you one thing. There's a book called Ranjan Chakravarti, right? A History of the Modern World. That is supposed to be one of the standard texts that I find written by Indian historian, right? Otherwise, any Indian historians haven't, discussed with the world history in a pretty well manner. That's the only book. It's a very concise book, so that book must be referred, right? And the second suggestion for the world section I'll give, just try to understand the concepts in the world section, right? By concepts, what exactly I mean, that there are few ideas, such as you are talking about the French Revolution, right? So it was a basically, idea-based movement, right? You are talking about socialism, you are talking about imperialism, you are talking about colonization, decolonization, right? So there are some broader themes. So if somehow you have comprehended those themes properly, you would be able to write down the answers in a better way. So that is why you just try to understand some broader concepts of the world section in a pretty well manner, because if once you have comprehended those broader themes, then you'll be able to write down a proper or frame a proper answer. So this is what I'll suggest you for paper 2, right? So that's all from my side. Now if you have query, doubt, you can ask to me. Sorry? Okay, map. Somehow I missed the most important area for you, right? I don't have any magic for the map section, right? If you have seen the questions, which is the map which is given by the UPSC, right? So you might have noticed one thing, they have just given some latitudes and the longitudes, right? So what I have done, I have just prepared some material. The material which is basically, in what way I have developed this material, I have just connected these lines or these latitudes and the longitudes one more divisions I have done, some more divisions I have done, right? I mean, just the middle point of this, 2 latitude, and here I just sorted out the middle points of 2 latitude and longitude, and just I made matched those, connected those lines, and then a sort of grid or graph is prepared, and you just prepare the map site in this way, right? So I'll be going to provide some material also, because in that way I have prepared the separated every period of phases, like the Paleolithic sites, the Mesolithic, the Neolithic. In that way I have separated it, and I have put the point or the site, I have marked the sites in this particular grid. So now it is easy to remember the site, the first thing. The second thing, for the explanation, you are not supposed to write much, right? You have just 30 words, right? So in those 30 words, you just write down the keywords of that particular site, right? So those keywords must be remembered. Definitely you have to remember those keywords. And if they are asking about the 30 words, if you are not writing the 30 words also, that is also fine. That there's not much problem with that. But you just try to carry maximum ideas, right? Even in a single sentence or the single word, you just try to do that. The maximum ideas for the maximum relevant information that you can carry with the while doing this explanation of the size, that would be helpful for you, right? That's it. One more thing that I completely missed to telling you, as I was telling you about keywords, right? For writing the answers in both the paper 1 and both the papers, paper 1 and paper 2, every answer is having certain keywords, right? So you always try to remember those keywords, right? Because when evaluator is evaluating the copy, he is genuinely trying to find out those keywords, and this is simultaneously true for the general studies paper and history as well, right? So whenever you are reading that particular issue or the theme, you just try to find out those keywords, shortlist those keywords, and whenever you are writing those answers or any answer based on the same theme, you just try to fit those keywords in your answer, because evaluator is not going through the complete answer. He is just looking rigorously for those keywords, and once he is finding those keywords, he is having a notion that, okay, the student is having a good understanding of history. So always shortlist such keywords and try to fit the keywords in your answer. That's it from my side. Anything else that you want to ask?
India since independence.
Yes, there is. Look, from post-independence, they are asking one question or maximum 2 questions, right? So there are few sections from the from that book that must be gone through by you. Like there are few chapters with the name of consolidation, right? In that particular book. So at least try to cover those sections which are with the name of consolidation, right? There are 4 or 5 chapters. Apart from that, the chapter which is related to planning, that must be studied by you. One chapter which is dealing with the zamindari, abolition of zamindari, that must be studied by you. So there are 7 or 8 chapters which are important for you, and that is going to helpful for you even in the general studies, right? So you just prepare those 7, 8 chapters. That's it. ज़्यादा पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है उसमें. That is up to you. It is in the Flexi format, right? And everything is recorded. Everything is recorded. Whenever I come to the class, that is recorded. So whatever the classes that I have put in the test series, that would be recorded. The discussion would be recorded. And unfortunately, I'm sitting here for the whole day. Unfortunately, right? So whenever you are having any doubt, you just give me a call, come to me, I'm here only, right? So that's not a big deal, right? That is why it is in the Flexi format, because you might not feel comfortable in that. So make your own planning, right? But follow that planning, right? कि आप 7 दिन में नहीं लिखना, आपको 10 दिन में लिखना. Fine, yeah, you write in 10 days. That's not a big deal, right? But you just follow your own planning, because if you're following this planning, in that case your syllabus is being covered in a fixed time. Otherwise, वो मैंने अपने लाइफ में कभी टेस्ट सीरीज नहीं लिखा. मैं हमेशा सोचता था कल और अच्छे से पढ़ लूंगा, उसके बाद लिखूंगा. अनफॉर्चुनेटली वो कल कभी नहीं आया. ठीक है. जैसे हाँ, आप साउथ अमेरिका की हिस्ट्री बोल सकते हैं. ट्रू. देखिए, एक वन थिंग आई विल सजेस्ट यू दैट एवरी माइनर टॉपिक दैट हैज बीन गिवन इन सिलेबस, एटलीस्ट हैव इंफॉर्मेशन ऑफ 500 वर्ड्स ऑन दैट पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक. बस 500, कि कुछ भी आ जाए लिख देना है उसको बस. ठीक है. तो एक छोटी प्रिपरेशन करके रखिए उसमें. ठीक है. अब साइमन बॉलिवर, आज तक मुझे लगता है एक बार पूछा है उन लोगों ने, ठीक है, मेरे टाइम पे पूछा था साइंस वाली। ऐसा टॉपिक है जो कभी नहीं पूछा गया, लैटिन अमेरिका का जो फ्रीडम फाइटर है, ठीक है। तो कुछ ऐसे टॉपिक्स हैं जो इग्नोर्ड हैं, ठीक है, बट यू जस्ट प्रिपेयर एनी टाइम दे कैन आस्क। दिस इज यूपीएससी, दिस इज नॉट यूपी पीसीएस माय फ्रेंड।
मैथ के रिगार्डिंग दोनों साल पीछे के नालंदा था कि विक्रमशिला था, कंफ्यूज।
अगर ऐसे साइट्स हैं तो दे यूज टू मार्क ऑन दैट, आपको नंबर मिलेगा, ठीक है। यस, ठीक है, दोनों में नंबर मिलेगा। यही तो इस अभी जो पैटर्न है उसकी सबसे बड़ी खासियत यही है कि इफ द साइट्स आर मच क्लोजर, राइट, सो यू आर गेटिंग नंबर इन बोथ द वेज।
लास्ट ईयर इट वाज वेरी क्लोज टू नालंदा, दिस ईयर इट वाज क्वाइट क्लोज टू विक्रमशिला।
That's true. I do accept your point, but you are getting marks, don't worry. And that is why people are scoring around 150, 160. और दूसरा वे भी है जिससे मुझे पता है कि they are marking, बंद कर दीजिए उसको।